everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode 27 of the Casual Movie Club. And it would not be a Casual Movie Club episode without not only just me, but my good friend Brian. Brian, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. What's happening, buddy?
Not quite my tempo.
I'm good. What's happening, my buddy?
No, not quite my tempo.
Hey, buddy. What's happening?
Look.
Hey, buddy. What's happening?
Hey, look. You got to get it at the right fucking tempo. I'm just kidding. We did such a great movie a movie that I love, absolutely love today. And the movie is Whiplash. And that movie is from 2014. Now, ever since we finished the movie about what, 10 minutes ago?
Not even.
Okay. I have been beyond dying to know what you thought of this. Now, before I say that, I do have to say, Brian, you have the nastiest, worst case of poker face I've ever seen. Because I could not tell whether you hated it or loved it or what. You had this whole poker face going on during the entire movie, and I was trying to figure out how you were liking it, because this movie is so near and dear to me, because I grew up, I went to a few different music schools. I actually have my college degree is from a music school. I went to I was part of what they called a gifted and talented program when I was a young kid at a different music school in New York. So this movie hit a lot of things for me, and it also reminded me a lot of my experiences in band in high school, because we had a band director that was not on the same level as Terrence Fletcher, aka J.K. Simmons, but he was very similar. So this movie, not only does it hit home for me in a lot of places, but I just absolutely love it. And I was totally wound up inside, really hoping that you enjoyed it. So Brian, please cast my fears aside. Tell me.
Well, did
you like it?
I told you we were going to have an interesting conversation about this.
Yes.
This movie shocked me one time, and
I wrote it in my notes too.
When I was shocked.
Yeah.
Because you could tell. I was it the car accident scene?
No, I think I forgot when it. Hold on a second.
Because I'm interested to know that.
Okay, no, I wrote it down. It was your facial expression after the first studio band rehearsal. So after he threw the chair at Neiman, and
I don't remember reacting to that.
Yeah,
I do remember reacting viscerally to the post car accident scene where he drags himself back up on stage, and
yeah, well, we'll get to that in a minute, but I remember seeing your face after he got out of that first scene, because I remember this. I have been.
It was shocking.
I've been through so many things that he went through in this movie. Have happened to me. Not the whole hands getting bloody, but I've gotten close, because I'm a drummer also, so I've experienced a lot of these things firsthand. But I remember seeing you just do this whoa look on your face. I wish I had taken a picture, but
yeah.
Apart from all of that, did you like the movie?
Before I answer that, let me give you a little bit of background to my experiences. I know we've talked about this before, but I don't know how much you know about my background in school.
I know very little.
I started playing the recorder in about third, fourth grade. Whenever in the United States, you have an elementary school, which is typically kindergarten through fifth grade. Mm-hmm. I started playing recorder in third grade, got into band, and chose the trumpet.
Okay.
One of my good friends at the time was also picked the trumpet, and then I found out the next week that he switched to drums.
Okay.
And if he had picked drums, I would have picked drums. So this was a pivotal moment in my school career.
Yeah.
So I started playing trumpet, and I was in the band, and I was in and out of concert choirs in school.
Yep.
I played in a brass ensemble in high school.
Oh, nice.
I played in a jazz band in high school.
Oh, cool.
I played in the concert band, the symphonic band. I sang in the concert choir. I sang in the Harmonies, which was a male a cappella group.
Wow.
I was also in the marching band. I was more into marching band than anything else. But
Okay.
if there was a musical club to be a part of, I was a member of it.
Very cool.
Post high school, I played in the. I'm from Delaware, and there is a Wilmington School of Music there that had. It was made up very similarly to the Schaefer School,
Okay.
where you'd have. It seemed like just like a music school. There was probably more going on in there, obviously, since it's being a school in New York, private school in New York, no less. But the school I went to had a jazz band, which I was a member of, in addition to other musical groups. So I had pretty much the same experiences, minus the abusive teacher in my school history. So. There was a lot that I could relate to in this film. Now, whether I liked it or not, I loved it.
Oh, God, thank God. Oh, wow.
I loved it. It was very, very well done. It was... there was some times where it was just bordered on... cheers.
Cheers.
It bordered on unbelievable... when it came to Terrence Fletcher's abuse. I really appreciate his iron. In high school, I had a band director that was very into, like, not military so much as just he was into the order. He was into the structure.
Yeah.
That, like, everybody had to be in sync. Everybody had to be together.
Yep.
Tunage was very important. It was very regimented.
So he was very passionate, it sounds like.
Oh, he was very, very passionate. Yeah. And he was, he strove for perfection, though he recognized that that's something that's difficult to get out of a group of high school kids.
Right.
My jazz instructor in the Wilmington School of Music was a little more laid back, which I didn't like as much. I played with them for a couple years before, maybe 3-4 years before I bowed out of there. But trumpet all through my music career. I played French horn. I played the mellophone. Although I always pined for the percussion.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I was pretty much drums in all of my band experiences. In high school, I was once I hit my sophomore year, I believe it was, I was actually the section leader for the drums. So I was the primary drum person. Right. And then before I was in high school, I went on Saturdays. I would go to this gifted and talented program for younger kids, and I studied drums at Manhattan School of Music, which was pretty fun. But throughout all those experiences, because I was also played in a percussion ensemble when I was in that gifted and talented group, and I remember playing a number of percussion ensembles with different directors, and a lot of them had a very similar level of passion that Terrence Fletcher did. But I think Terrence Fletcher really took it overboard in certain aspects. But by the end of the movie, you kind of like, and I don't know if we're jumping around, but
no, this is a great discussion to get into, the philosophy behind Terrence Fletcher.
Right, because I could see, and I don't know if you picked up on this, but like you could see there was that moment where Terrence Fletcher and Andrew Neiman were equals.
Yeah.
And for me, what showed me that was at the very end when Neiman takes this epic solo at the end of the like literally the last minute of the movie or so, and then he's going nuts on the drums, and then his cymbal falls down, and Fletcher comes over and fixes it. Mm-hmm. It's not like, because the asshole dipshit Fletcher would have just been standing up there and be like, fix your fucking cymbal, but he came over there and fixed it for him.
Well, but why did he fix it for him? So So let's just get into it, because
right.
And I know you took a lot of notes. I took maybe a handful of notes.
Yeah.
But I am very interested in talking about the philosophy between the dynamic between these two.
Yeah, because and I have some things I want to ask you. I specifically have a section that I wrote in my notes called "Stuff to Ask Brian."
Yeah, let's roll through that.
So first of all, I hate your poker face. I'm just going to be honest. What did you think of the music of the film? Do you like jazz, big band, swing, that kind of stuff? Because I for one thing love the soundtrack to this movie.
I love it. I love that style of music as well, though it's not my preferred. It's not my preferred genre to listen to.
Sure.
It's great if I'm doing laundry, if no one's in the house and I'm cleaning and I'm just like kind of doing things around the house. I think it's great background music.
Yeah.
I've also found it's great driving music.
I was just going to say that.
Great driving music.
Oh,
yeah. Again, I don't think it's unless your passenger is amenable to that. I don't think it's good to listen to with other passengers on long road trips.
Right, unless the other person is also into that style of music. But yeah, I agree with you.
Right.
Okay. Now, one thing I really wanted to ask you, because one of the things in the IMDb trivia, it says that initially the director could not get funding for this, so he made a short film, which then he submitted to various, contests and such, and he won one of those. I think it might have mentioned which one it was, but he won the short film festival, and then he got funding to make the full-length movie. Did you feel like you could see where they kind of added stuff in? Like, did some sections feel like they went a little faster than others, or did you feel like it was one very well cohesively edited and made movie, or do you feel like it was a short movie that they made longer?
So I'm familiar with this piece of trivia. Coming into this, I've met several people who recommended this film to me. Just to be clear to the listening audience, this was my first time seeing this film.
Right.
Before I answer your question, how many times have you seen this?
Probably at least 5 or 6.
5 or 6 times? Okay. In my viewing, being aware of this piece of trivia, I could not spot... one of the warnings I was given is like, oh, careful, because it can get a little slow and get a little draggy at parts.
Yeah.
And I didn't experience that, but maybe because I'm partial to the subject matter.
Yeah, and I too did not really feel like it was slow at any given point. I remember when I first watched it, like I was so in tune to this movie and so connected to this movie that I still remember the first time I saw it. And I remember being very, very engaged. You know, so I know that's gonna really help the scores later on. But I remember really wanting to see what was going to happen next. And then I remember at the very, very end of the movie, at the end of that solo, and then when the band hits that note, and then like that snare hit, and then the it just fades to black and the credits come, I clapped. I was watching the movie in my apartment, and I just remember
So I want to come back around to that.
Yeah.
Do you know of any parts that were added to the original shorts? Is there any parts that you can think of?
I don't. I mean, I would be interested to see the short film version of this.
I'm sure it's floating around out there somewhere.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see it. Now, I really like the movie the way it is, though.
Yeah. No. So,
because I think there's this really good character exposition, and maybe
absolutely.
I think that might have been what they added, because they could have easily, if they took out all the character exposition, like all the stuff with him and the girlfriend and him and the dad and all that stuff, if they took that all out, they could probably get it down to what would be considered a short film. Because the whole film's only an hour and 35 minutes. Something like that.
I don't know what it even felt like, because I was kind of drawn in. One thing I wanted to, I do want to.
Hour 46. Sorry, hour 46.
That didn't feel like it felt, I guess, kind of short.
Yeah.
In my estimation, but I want to get your take on this.
Yeah.
To my ear, it sounded like that the film started with that slow into left right into a drum roll, maybe even into a buzz roll.
Yeah.
But and it sounded, to my ear anyway, a little amateurish, a little choppy. The very end in the solo, it's was perfection.
I would completely agree with that.
You heard that too?
I did.
Okay, I wasn't
Yeah.
sure if that was me. Of all the years of music, I've been around music and I've played music. It's sometimes like your ears play tricks on you.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that's kind of an indication of
How much he's progressed.
exactly,
Yeah.
you know, how much he's developed since being a, you know, was he a first year or second year? I forget, but
He said first.
yeah, so being a first year to, you know, getting into studio band and you know, progressing from there. So I think that's a really astute observation. And I noticed that too, where the movie kind of almost begins and ends with that snare drum roll.
Correct.
It starts with that, and then he does that towards the end, like to kind of wrap up the solo. So I loved that. I loved how well this came together.
I hate it.
Why?
I love hate
Why in
it.
the world would you hate it?
Because the end, like after that, this is that dynamic that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
I want him to just give as much of a fuck you to Terrence Fletcher as he can. And he forced Fletcher to, Neiman, the drummer, the student, he forced Fletcher into playing Caravan. Right. Fletcher didn't want to do that. Fletcher wanted to humiliate him and drive him off the stage.
Yeah.
He was humiliated. He came back and then forced Fletcher into doing Caravan. And they did what sounded like an extended rendition of it with solos and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then when the song was supposed to be over, he just like continued to solo and then drew it down. And he's still in control of the band, right? And now this is that equals thing that you were talking about.
Yeah.
Fletcher comes over and he's like, all right, okay. Now, Fletcher is like, is he appreciating Neiman taking charge of the band? And is he accepting, instead of being a leader of the band conductor, is he accepting his role as a member of the band, not my band, but a member of the band as a collective? Because Neiman, for all intents and purposes, is now leading this band. Right. So with Fletcher getting on, he's derailed Fletcher, but now Fletcher is now a part of this band, and I don't like it because I want Neiman, I'm trying to get myself into the character's head. I wanted Neiman to just like burn down Fletcher by screwing everything up, not messing him.
I think he kind of did though, because the big thing that Fletcher had during that entire movie was control. Fletcher was always in control of everything. He was always pulling drummers on and off the kit. He was always, you know, in leading the band, and that was the one thing that Neiman took away from him at that very last scene. You know, he took the control away from him. He was the one who picked Caravan to play. He was the one who picked, you know, he said, I'll cue you. You know, he basically just put him, he took over, you know, in that moment. And, you know, I think that when Fletcher was kind of conducting him and he was like telling him to play louder, play softer, I don't even know that Neiman was following that, to be honest with you.
I think he certainly was. They made eye contact a few times.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe they did, you know, and maybe that was a moment where they were finally seeing on the same level, because I think that was a moment where Neiman sort of took that control element away from Fletcher, but then Fletcher realized, okay, Neiman actually knows his shit. He's a competent player. He's good at what he's doing. He deserves to have my respect. And I think that was the moment where he earned Fletcher's respect, which seemed to be impossible to earn throughout the entire movie. So I think that moment that they had together, and then when, you know, you could see that when Fletcher came and fixed the cymbal for him, and he was like, okay, you know, they kept that partnership going, and I made a note that they had tremendous chemistry during the entire movie. Like, I loved the chemistry between the two of them, and you know, there was that they you know, Fletcher was still kind of grabbing onto whatever control he could have, but Neiman was still been like, no, I got this. Look at me. I'm gonna show your ass that you you made the right decision by bringing me in here. Even though you tried to get me laughed off the stage, I still came back and I still whooped your ass, and I didn't let you overpower me.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
That makes sense. I understand what you're saying. What doesn't jive to me is that Neiman would be okay with Fletcher. Maybe it's just the vindictive side of me that wants the enemies to be burned down and defeated wholly.
Maybe.
But the times that Neiman pushed back on Fletcher. In Fletcher's office, before the competition where he was late, earning the part, like that kind of thing. Like he was pushing back, but Fletcher never ceded control.
Right.
And the conversation that they had in the bar at the very end before the Carnegie Hall performance or whatever. Was that Carnegie Hall?
I think so.
Was it Carnegie Hall? Yeah.
I think so.
The conversation that they had in the bar at the jazz band, when the jazz band was playing, I'm not sure if that was wholly truthful. Is that Fletcher being like, yeah, I've got this thing going on. I think I'd like you to come by and play. Like,
well, that was the one outside the bar. You know, the one that they were talking about inside the bar was they were talking about how, you know, the greats became the greats and how they weren't going to be discouraged and everything. And, you know, and Fletcher was kind of talking about how he made enemies and how he pushed people and everything like that. So that conversation, I think, was really important to see because it showed that Fletcher had a human side, but I think it also really tied in why Fletcher was the way he was.
I don't know about I don't know. I don't think that was him showing his human side because he showed Neiman his human side to bring him up on the stage of Carnegie Hall and just humiliate him. It wasn't until despite the fact that they appear to view each other as equals and are working in sync, in tandem at this last performance, everything up to that point is Fletcher still being the same controlling, sadistic bastard who's luring his former pupil. You think I'm fucking stupid? I know it was you. Yeah. I know it was you who lost me my job. Yeah. And that job was important to him. It was the most important thing to him in his whole life. And and that he said those words. Like no one can take away from me that I tried to make the next Charlie Parker an uncompromising. Right. So it's difficult for me to accept Fletcher's humanity. Even up until the very end when him and Neiman are working together.
Yeah, I respect that because, and that's kind of a good segue because I made a little list and I'd be interested to see what you'd want to add to this list. Things that make Fletcher a complete dick.
Yes.
Number one, giving that guy Connolly the chart ahead of time.
Yes.
When he gave the caravan chart and he brought in that I guess the alternate guy from the first band that we see Neiman in, like that other band, throwing the chair at Neiman or like just hurling stuff at people. That he's a complete dick for that. Screaming at people, his attitude, you know, the day of the performance, he's on stage and he's like, "You think I'm fucking stupid? I know it was you." Like, who does that?
Yeah.
You know, who does that? You know, not giving him the chart for that song, and then, you know, after it the song just falls apart in the middle of a performance. Yeah, I guess you just don't have it. Like, what? Who does that to someone on stage at a performance? Because not only does it make the drummer look bad, not only does it make Neiman look bad, it makes him look bad. Because why would you have a drummer in your band fucking it up?
His conceit, Fletcher's conceit. Or did you have more on that list?
No, but I wanted to know what else you thought made Fletcher a complete dick.
Everything he does. Listen to me. He comes in to one of the most important rehearsals that the band is having, and he comes in teary-eyed, sits, puts on a CD and plays it, and he emotionally manipulates the drum kit players into disarming them when his plan is to just break them the fuck down.
Well, he's also lying through his teeth.
He's lying through his teeth. Yes, he's
Yes.
also a liar. So that's something else you can add to this list. Now, Fletcher's life mission to make the next Charlie Parker. He's taking an anecdote which may or may not be true. Have you heard this thing about Charlie Parker before? How
About the symbol?
the symbol being
no,
thrown at
I
the
have
head?
not heard that.
I've not heard that either. Let's say it's true.
Yeah.
Or let's say it's exaggerated. Whatever. He's taking this piece of information and he's conflating it into being as much of a dick as you can to somebody to force greatness out of them. Now you can do that. That is a style of leadership.
Right.
That is an absolutely effective, proven style of leadership. But coming back to the conversation in the jazz bar, where they're in the bar,
Right.
Neiman asks, "Don't you think there's a line? Can you go too far?" And the answer is yes.
I agree.
Yes, you can go too far because a former student killed himself.
Right.
Another student changed careers entirely, went into med school.
Right. I think that, and I agree with you, because I think that comes down to knowing your audience and knowing who you're trying to inspire, because not everybody is going to be inspired by the same level of leadership, as you call it. You know, not everybody's going to respond to that. Like, I can tell you, because at my former job, when I worked in a retail store, I had a supervisor that was never in the military, but he thought he was, and he tried to treat all of us repair techs like we were his subordinates, and he was a drill sergeant, and he actually took me outside in front of we were in a mall, so we were in front of this pizzeria that had, seating and everything. He was yelling at me and berating me in front of people eating dinner. And it was the most embarrassing thing, but I didn't respond at all to it. I was just mortified. I was like, who is this asshole yelling at me? And I wound up, reporting him to my managers and everything, and he's no longer with the company, thank goodness.
Surprise, surprise.
I know. But all that having been said, that method of, quote, inspiring me or correcting me or whatever was completely ineffectual. If he had actually taken the time to get to know me and realize how I prefer to be treated and spoken to, he could have gotten a lot more motivation out of me by doing what he needed to do to get me to change what I had to change, or, whatever the situation was. This was like 10 years ago. But all that aside, you have to know who you're talking to, and you have to know your audience in order to be able to get the best out of them, because not everybody is going to respond to that same type of stimulus.
Which is a great segue into another reason why Terrence Fletcher is a dick.
Tell me.
He brings in Neiman to be a part, an alternate in the studio band. And then his first night in, he comes out to him casually. He's like, "Hey, Neiman, what's up? Hello, tell me a little bit about yourself. What's your dad like?
Oh God, you're right.
What's your mom? What's your mom like? Any musicians in the family? Blah blah blah." Just make small talk with Neiman, and then when they get into back into the session, he uses all of that information to tear Neiman down, to berate him publicly in front of the rest of the band, people that Neiman has just met minutes before,
right? To
get to the point where he's crying. Neiman is crying in front of these strangers.
Yeah.
So just the same leadership style, I suppose, is used in a totally vicious and sadistic manner.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Where's the line? Now, one could argue that it was effective for Neiman.
Yeah, it was, but it might not have been.
What do you mean it might not have been?
I mean, it might not have been if Neiman wasn't the kind of person to respond to that sort of stimuli or to respond to that sort of motivation. I'm using air quotes.
I don't think that's the point. I think the point is that if it wasn't for the coincidental meeting in the jazz bar, it would not have been brought out. But all the foundation... it pains me to say this, but Fletcher was right and laid all the groundwork to bring out the greatness in Neiman.
Right.
He laid all that groundwork, but that's only effective on the personality type that Neiman is.
Exactly. That would respond to that sort of stimulus.
And the thing that burns me up is that it only was brought out with the coincidental meeting at the jazz bar.
What do you mean by that?
Because if Neiman wasn't walking around, he had thrown away all of his drums, all of his percussive
he
memorabilia.
didn't throw it away. He just put it in the closet.
He threw a lot of it away. There were brute trash cans. He put things in black trash bags.
Oh yeah, he threw away his
kit.
posters and everything. He kept his kit.
He threw away all the memorabilia though. He wanted to put that away, and that was in his closet. He would not have busted that out if he did not have that chance meeting with Fletcher at the jazz bar.
True. However, this is a movie.
It is a movie, and
so there's not going to be movie footage of him just walking around and missing other things that happen and whatnot. It's obviously he's going to walk around the bend, see Terrence Fletcher's name on the little chalkboard. So he had that chance meeting with him, but I mean, it
makes for a good story. It makes for a great story.
Sure.
And this was a great story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have any other questions on your big list of Brian questions for me?
No. That was it. That was really it.
Okay.
What other things did you want to talk about, or do you want to go to numbers?
We covered all of them. We covered everything in my notes.
Cool.
And if you have more notes, I'm down.
I did have something I wanted to ask you.
Yes.
So if you were Andrew Neiman, would you have? Because this is one thing I didn't really love, but I kind of could see it. Why they did it, but if the whole breaking up with his girlfriend thing and how he sort of played out their relationship in his mind, oh, I'm gonna want to focus on drumming and you're gonna get upset with me, so you're gonna resent me, and then it's gonna would you have done the same thing in his shoes? Do you feel like that was kind of a being a dick sort of thing? Because I if it were me, I would not have just ended things with my significant other at that point. I would have been like, this is something I really need to focus on. Do you want to go down this road with me, or would you rather just remain friends? I would have had it be a lot more of an open dialogue than just, I'm going to cut you off because I know I'm going to resent you and you're going to bring me down. How did you feel about that?
Well, I've kind of been in that position, and I've been Neiman in that scenario. Not so cold and callous as to end a relationship.
Yeah.
That coldly.
Yeah.
But I have ended roommates relationships. I've moved out of places, and I've been that logical, that cold, I suppose is a way to put it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I didn't like how Andrew handled that, because there was more of an emotional connection, and that was ruthless what he did. He just kind of chest moved it all out and laid it out in front of her, and was like, so that's why we're breaking up. And she just was trying to make it sound worse, and he's like, no, you're right. No, yeah. You're absolutely right. Yes. I'm going to resent you. Yeah, I'm going to hate me. You're going to hate me. So this is why we should end it.
But I loved how she handled it. She's like, the fuck is wrong with you? Yeah, we shouldn't be dating.
Yeah.
She just got up and left. I was like, that's exactly what I would have done.
Well, because she's a normal feeling person.
Right.
And I would not have handled a romantic relationship that way.
Me neither. I would have made it a lot more of an open mutual dialogue and say, look, this is where I feel like my priorities are going to be. I really enjoy spending time with you. Do you want to continue this on, based on that? Or would you feel more comfortable if we just kind of parted as friends? I would make it an open discussion like that.
Yeah. I was living with a bunch of roommates at one time, and everyone kind of decided, oh, we're going to move into this house, and it's going to be great. And then a bunch of rules were put up, and it was just like, I'm not comfortable with these rules. So then I just basically said, you know what, I'm out of here because of this reason.
Yeah.
But we need you for this house and the rent and blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, but I can see where this is going, and this is not going to be a healthy environment for me to live in. So, and for that reason, I'm out.
Yeah.
But
Spoken just like someone on Shark Tank.
yeah.
Nice. All right. Anything else we want to say before we do numbers?
No, I'm ready to go.
I got to say, mad props to Miles Teller, because Miles Teller, who played Andrew Neiman, did most of his own drumming.
Yeah, I read that piece of trivia too.
Yep.
He actually bloodied his own hands also practicing for this.
Yep. So, all of that having been said, let's do some numbers. And those of you that are listening to us for the first time, welcome to the Casual Movie Club. Those of you that are coming back again for another episode, welcome back to the Casual Movie Club. Welcome back. And we love having everybody here because all are welcome.
Everyone.
All skill levels, whether you're just a brand new one or an experienced player, you're welcome in here in the Casual Movie Club. We will not be throwing anything at you. We will not be screaming at you or berating you. We will welcome you with open arms, very un-Terrence Fletcher-like. But that being said, let's talk numbers. So the numbers that we speak of are what you can find on our leaderboard on our website. So casualmovieclub.com, click on leaderboard at the very top, and you can see things, see all the numbers that we have given to other movies. Now, these are averages between the two the two numbers between the two of us. So things like the acting, how well do the actors convey the story? How believable were they? The script, how well was that dialogue written? The presentation, the editing and visual effects usage, too much, not enough? Is there a copious amount of green screen, or did it look like it was pretty natural? Music and sound, so all the goodies for your ears. How did your ears enjoy the movie? Did you like what you heard? The uniqueness factor, has this kind of movie been done before? And based on the time in which it came out as well. So movies that came out afterwards don't count. It's basically whatever, whenever that movie came out, and I guess earlier potentially. And then there's the engagement factor. Does this movie keep you engaged? Are you on the edge of your seat? Are you dying to know what happens next? Or are you just posting a picture with one of those silly filters on Snapchat? So, all that aside, those are the numbers we're going to be doing. And Brian, because this was a movie that I had suggested, why don't we start with
you
on the acting? What did you think of the acting in Whiplash? Whiplash.
I thought all of the performances were very, very strong. Some of the side characters, Paul Reiser, by the way, fucking great.
Paul Reiser, freaking Paul Reiser. I didn't even know he was in this until he showed up on screen. I was like, holy shit, it's Paul Reiser.
Yeah, I love the little choices that he made throughout the film.
He was a nice little surprise.
The Raisinets and the popcorn really tickled me, and how incensed he was that Neiman would just eat around him.
Yeah. I think it was supposed to be gummy worms at first, and then he did Raisinets instead, I think.
Oh, really?
I think so. Because when Neiman first went to the movie theater, didn't she say like, "Oh, don't you want gummy worms?" And he got
Swedish
Raisinets.
fish.
Swedish fish.
Yeah.
But so what did you think of the acting?
The acting, again, strong performances all around. There's a few minor characters that's kind of noticeably not good actors, and I would probably attribute that to them being actual musicians or session players. So the acting, I would give a 4.
Point what?
4 even.
That's it?
4 even.
Okay. I disagree with some of that. I agree with a lot of what you said, that, some of the supporting actors weren't that great, but I mean, they really weren't the focus of the movie, because the supporting actors, what I really liked about it was the supporting actors really were not in a lot of the scenes, but the scenes that the important ones were in were very good, and being someone that's, I've been a musician all my life. I'm still a musician now. I have come to know a lot of musicians as well, and a lot of the folks, the musicians in this movie remind me of those that I know, so I wouldn't take any points off for that. I'm giving the acting a 5.
Oh, geez. Perfect.
And J.K. Simmons actually took away the Oscar, if I remember correctly. He took away the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor.
That wouldn't surprise me. He was phenomenal.
Yep, yeah. So he took so the Oscar. This movie won 3 Oscars actually. J.K. Simmons took away Best Performance by an Actor in a Supporting Role, Best Achievement in Film Editing for Tom Cross, and then Best Achievement in Sound Mixing. So my audio engineer buddies, congratulations to Craig Mann, Ben Wilkins, and Thomas Curley. Great job behind the mixing console. So those 3 Oscars went to Whiplash here. So that was really awesome.
Nice.
So I'm giving acting a 5. And on the same thing of script, this was nominated for Best Writing, Adapted Screenplay. So that's definitely good. But the script I really liked. There was nothing that offended me about it. You know, am I going to give it a perfect score? Not necessarily, but I'm going to give it a nice 4.5 because I think a lot of the dialogue that was there for, Neiman and Fletcher and everything was great. I really liked the chemistry that was written in for those two characters. The chemistry there had, a lot of that came from the dialogue and then the script and everything. So I'm going with a 4.5 for script.
Nice. Well, I think we mentioned earlier some of the coincidences and stuff that happened, but again, this is a movie, so can't really knock off too much for that if you really want to progress a story
really
and tell a story,
a
meaningful story.
Right.
The car accident and him making it back to stage on time was a little stretch for me, but really those are the only negatives I really have. The script was dynamite.
Yeah.
Throughout. Wasn't perfect for my standing either. So I would score it a solid 4.
Point. What?
Solid 4.
Oh my God, you're killing me.
Why am I killing you?
No, 4's good. 4's good. Okay, so what do you want to give presentation? The visual element of things. How did your eyes enjoy the movie? I
loved a lot of it. The green, the prevalence of green lighting in a lot of the apartments was kind of an unusual choice for me. Green seemed to follow him around, and I wasn't sure what they were trying to say about that. If that was he's still green, or whatever, or I don't know.
That's interesting. I never thought of that.
Yeah. Do you know what I'm talking about though?
Yeah, I totally do.
Yeah. I really loved the camera angles that they would cut to during the performances. Underneath the drum kit, panning across the trombone section, in and out of the keyboards. It was fantastic. One of my favorite scenes visually is when Neiman cuts up his hands and has a pitcher of water ice available, and as he dunks his hand in, it's kind of a landscape view where it's everything sideways, and the red is like a plunger coming in to take over the rest of the ice.
Yeah.
But yes, aside from some of the choices I didn't understand, I again loved the presentation. Thought it was really well done. I'll give it another solid 4.
Point.
It's 4 even. I've got some points in there. We'll get to those. Okay,
all right, fine. Well, I agree with most of that. And I don't know if you noticed this, but did you notice that anytime Fletcher was on screen, it was, you never saw Fletcher in a brightly lit room. When Fletcher was on screen, or like in the room that Fletcher's band practiced in, was a darker room. There was no outside windows, whereas the first band room they were practicing in had windows going to the outside. It was lit with white light instead of yellow. You see Fletcher in the jazz club where it was kind of dark. When he was on stage, there was, the lights on stage, but then there was the element of darkness of the audience. So there was always some element of darkness with Fletcher on screen, or when Fletcher was involved in a scene. Did you notice that?
Yeah, the first scene he was in, they were really hitting you over the head with it. He kind of came out of the shadows and was like, swing time, double time.
Yeah.
Why'd you stop playing? Well, why'd you start playing? When I asked you, why'd you stop playing?
Yeah.
And then he kind of retreats back into the shadows. And then, forgot my coat. So they really played around with lighting with him, and it was noticeable to my eye.
Yeah. So 4.5 for presentation for me.
Nice.
Music and sound, this one's going to be easy. 5 all the way, because I love the soundtrack. I loved the sound mix as well. I really loved the choice of the songs and everything. I thought was really great. I liked that there wasn't a ton of score in the movie, because I know in previous episodes we've talked about how a good score is kind of forgettable in a way, or it doesn't make itself known. It just sort of supplements what you're seeing on screen. I really liked that when they did use music, they used some jazz music, or they would use there was a solo bass piece for some of the tension bits. There was like a kind of a solo upright bass type of thing. It was very sparsely done, but very nicely done. So I really enjoyed the audio element of things. So I'm going with a perfect 5 for the music and sound.
Oh, that's unfortunate. I'm going for 3.5.
You better not be.
No, I'm not.
I was going to say, you could just leave now.
One of my favorite things that they did was after the dressing down Fletcher gave Neiman, he went to listen to a Buddy Rich album. Right. And he put it on a small little boombox, very, very small boombox. It had little speakers. And he was sitting next to it, kind of curled up and tapping his foot, listening to it. And it was very low and very tinny, but it was integrated into part of the soundtrack. And as that scene went on, it got louder and louder and louder, and it transitioned into Neiman gaining the resolve that he needed to buckle down and start practicing. So I really like what they did with that. That would be more of like a presentation thing, but I noticed that, and I really appreciated it. Music and score for me, it's not perfect. I love it a lot. It's not perfect, so I'm going to give it a 4.5.
Okay. You do have a take backsies, remember? Uniqueness. What did you think of the uniqueness factor of this movie?
It's difficult to think of other movies that are like this one, especially in this time frame. What was this, 2013? 2014. There aren't really any other movies that are like this that I can think of. It's just this imposing mentor, father figure kind of thing that the protagonist just gets sucked up into and has to fight back against. There's some of those tropes that are there that you can identify in other movies, but I don't know of any other movies that are like this. But again, I can identify some tropes here or there, so I'm going to give the uniqueness a 4.5.
Okay. I'm going to echo your uniqueness, because I think the tropes are definitely there, but I think what gives it kind of an edge is using the element of music and using the element of it being a band environment and a musician and a student at a music school. I think that does make it kind of unique in a way. But I agree with you. I think it's the tropes make it not a perfect movie. If that makes sense. Engagement factor. I'm kind of going to use my score. I'm going to score this based on my first viewing of the movie, which
interesting, because I wanted to bring that up to you. So go ahead with that.
I'm going to score this based on my first viewing of the movie. Are there scenes that do kind of slow the pace down? Absolutely. But it's not something that would completely disassociate me. I would not dissociate with the movie during that. There, things that when we were watching, I mean, not to compare this at all in any way to The Room, but not much was going on screen on The Room, so I could disassociate myself and just listen to what was going on and still kind of have an idea. I was a lot more intrigued and curious to know what was going to happen when I first watched this movie, and I was just so pulled in. You know, today's watching of the movie, I still really enjoyed it, just like I always do with this movie. You know, I was on my phone a couple times. I was taking notes with my laptop. So, you know, like I was not watching the screen the entire time. But I remember when I first watched the movie, I was watching the screen quite a bit because I wanted to know where it was going to go from there. And I didn't feel like the movie was slow, you know, really slow at any given point because the times that they had dedicated to the slower parts seemed appropriate for what they were doing. So engagement factor for me, 4.25.
4.25. Interesting.
Yes, sir.
I'm really struggling with this because my engagement factor on my first viewing, I'm going to tell you straight up, is a 4.5. But I don't think this movie has a lot of rewatchability. This is not the kind of movie that you would throw on with friends or maybe throw on more than once with a significant other. I would definitely watch this movie again, but I would not be as invested in it. I would really watch it just for the detail of the film itself, the nuances of the music and sound, the acting. I would watch again for the acting, but I can't see me getting more than three or four watches out of this.
Okay. So,
and I would be less engaged each time.
Okay. Interesting. So are you sticking with 4.5?
I'm sticking with 4.5 just because of echoing you. My first viewing was this wasn't as engaging to me as like Interstellar or Dark Knight or any other movies. But this is really up there. Cool.
So I am going to invoke a take backsies, and I'm actually going to give a little bit more points to uniqueness. I'm going to go from 4.5 to 4.65, mainly because I like the element of music being the vehicle of the tropes that are being used.
Tell me more.
That's about it, honestly.
Okay.
That whole dynamic of the, really strong alpha male and the little weakling trying to convince the alpha male that he's worthy.
He's worthy,
exactly.
Worthy of his love,
right.
Worthy of his attention.
Right. So I want to tack a little bit more on, maybe it might just be my soft spot for music.
Sure.
But I want to give it a little more. Are you happy with the numbers you have given?
I am. I'm surprised at how high I rated this. This is
happy you rated it that high.
Yeah, I was surprised at how good this was. I know about the awards it won, the accolades it got, but after viewing, I didn't think I would enjoy it as much as I did. So I'm happy with my scores.
All right. So would it be safe to say the numbers are in? The
numbers are in, sir.
I liked this movie a little more than you did. But you liked this movie pretty close. My average was 4.65. Yours was 4.25. So, we definitely liked this movie. I highly recommend it. Would you recommend it?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yes.
Beautiful. So the numbers are in and they go a little something like this. Acting 4.5, script 4.25, presentation 4.25, music and sound 4.75, uniqueness 4.58, engagement factor 4.38 for a total average of 4.45. This is now the number one movie on our leaderboard, beating out Pulp Fiction by 1/10 of a point.
Your take backsies put it over the top.
That was the reason I did the take backsies.
Oh shit!
because the score was exactly the same. It was 4.44, so it would have been exactly the same as Pulp Fiction. But I had to kick it up a little bit and give music a little bit of an edge. But Whiplash 2014 is now our number one movie on the Casual Movie Club leaderboard. I am elated right now.
I can tell. You're hyped.
Thrilled. I am so thrilled.
So hyped.
I'm so thrilled. I'm so glad you really like this movie, man, because I'm very passionate about it. I really, really love the movie. It really speaks to me as a person, as a musician, and as a movie lover. I love it. So I'm so glad you enjoyed it, man. I genuinely mean that. I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
Nice.
That being said, next week
Next week.
What are we doing?
Well, that's a conversation we should have.
I agree.
So, yeah, I know you picked this movie last week.
I kind of look at it more as like suggested it.
You suggested it.
Yeah. Would you like to? Do you have one you want to suggest?
I have one I'd like to suggest.
Okay.
And I'm not sure how you feel about this.
Okay.
But I'm going to suggest it all the same.
Sure.
Because one way or another, we're going to watch this movie.
Uh-oh.
It might not be my next surprise movie if you don't pick it, but it will be in a surprise movie somewhere down the line.
Okay.
I don't know what your relationship is to this movie is.
Okay. What movie is that?
Requiem for a Dream.
I've never seen it.
Have you heard of it?
I've heard of it. I've never. Is this the one with the floating bag?
You're thinking of American Beauty.
Oh, okay.
This is an intense movie. It's not overly long.
Okay.
But it's highly rated.
That's what she said.
It's highly rated. It's I believe the sophomore movie of the wrestlers Darren Aronofsky.
Okay.
And I really, really enjoy it, but I gotta warn you, it's very intense.
Well, I'll tell you what. I am down to watch it.
Are you?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So next week, Requiem for a Dream. Is this the movie that's done in? No, I'm thinking of Memento.
You're thinking of Memento, which I also love, but that's a movie we need to talk about.
Okay. We'll talk about that offline.
We'll talk about that offline.
Yeah.
But this Requiem for a Dream came out in the year 2000.
Okay.
It's an hour and 40 minutes.
Perfect.
And it's set in it's like modern day time. So it's modern for its time.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm open. I've never seen it, so I'm open.
I'm not going to give you any more than that.
I respect that.
Okay.
That's awesome. So before we go.
Oh, but yeah, one more thing I can say about this movie is that it is number 83 on the IMDb Top 100.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So just to give you and that's all I'm going to say.
Okay. Is Whiplash on the Top 100 or no?
It's well above Requiem. It's like in the 60s, I think.
Oh, wow. Very cool. Very cool.
It's on there. I saw it.
Okay.
Actually, it's in the 40s. It's 44.
Nice. Very cool.
44.
That's awesome. So we're getting some good movies here on the Casual Movie Club, and if you guys want to keep on keeping on with us, we would love to have you stay with us and be a part of the Casual Movie Club, because all are welcome. Everyone is welcome in the Casual Movie Club. And if you could do us a huge favor, we would love you forever. Share our podcast with your friends and family. Tell them all about us. If you really enjoy the content that we have, we would love to bring as many people as possible here into the Casual Movie Club. The Casual Movie Club is a club with no limits.
No limits.
No limits. We would love to have everybody and anybody be a part of the Casual Movie Club. Now, you may be wondering, how can I become a part of the Casual Movie Club? Well, number one, listen to our podcast. So if you're hearing us right now, you're already a part of the Casual Movie Club, so welcome. You can listen to us on iTunes, or soon to be Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and also newly added to the list, Radio Public. So now you can get us on all those different formats. You can engage with us. You can talk with us and other members of the Casual Movie Club, in theory, by tweeting or Instagramming us at Casual Movie Club. We post some random little things here and there. You can also call or leave us a message on our very own Google Voice number. And I know some of you are not fans of just calling random podcasters and being like, hey, I want to talk to you. So no problem there. You can call and leave us a voicemail or text message. We will not randomly pick up and put you on the spot. But we would love, love, love to hear from you at the following phone number.
That number is 402-882-2742. That's 402-882-2742. Like John said, that is not a manned line. You can just give us a call, leave us a voicemail, and if you're so inclined, we'll listen to it on air and address any questions, comments, concerns that you have.
Absolutely. And then speaking of addressing questions, comments, concerns, please leave us a review on whatever platform you enjoy our podcast on. We would love to hear back from you, and we would love to know if you're enjoying or want to hear other things on our podcast. If you have movie suggestions, by all means, reach out to us, let us know. If you want to support us, we do have a Patreon going now. You can go to our website, casualmovieclub.com. Click on the Patreon button. It'll take you over to our Patreon where you can join for as little as $1 a month and help us keep the podcast hosted, keep the lights on, and keep us making wonderful content for all of you. And we even have merchandise. We have a new item in our merchandise as well. We have a new design with all of our different leaderboard criteria up there: acting and script and audio and presentation and uniqueness and engagement. So if you want to go and represent your favorite movie podcast, you can wear that on a shirt, have it on a phone case, or whatever items are available up on our merch thing. So check that out as well.
I'm definitely interested in the shirt.
Oh, me too. I think I might rep the shirt because the shirt's just cool. It's one of those like Helvetica list shirts. So
yeah, it's based off of a thing that the Beatles did.
Oh, okay.
John and Paul and Ringo and George.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was the genesis of it. I thought it was just somebody made a Helvetica list and it just took off.
Oh, it's had a resurgence in the past few years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Casual Movie Club is keeping up with the trends.
Yeah.
So, so there we go. All right, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to be it for this episode of Casual Movie Club. Thank you so much again for tuning in with us. We will see you next time.
Bye.
Not quite my tempo.
What? Bye.
Not quite my tempo.
Bye.
Not quite my tempo.
You say it then.
How about I just do this?